Melanie Liburd, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I can. So, finally, we're getting this started. So, the actual podcast is called Finding Your Voice, which I think is very fitting because each person has their own story. And for the first guest of this podcast, I wanted to introduce somebody with my favorite story. Maybe their favorite story is their entire life, and they may not be so pleased by their life being my entertainment. But if you're ever feeling down, Melanie's life will just make you feel a wee bit better about yourself. That's a little
There you
that's
go.
it's a little modest, but in the meantime, while I pull up a poem, introduce yourself. Tell them what you'd like them to know about you, or what you'd hate them to know about you. Anything. Just pacify the audience while I pull up the poem.
Okay, there you go. I'm Mel. I I coach. I coach cross country. I coach track, and that's literally just what I do all day. Is I am a PE teacher. I like to write. I love to read. I like to draw. All that fun stuff. A very creative person. I love music. Music's my favorite thing in the world, probably. That's what I
Mm.
do. I just listen to music all day, and I coach.
What Mel has yet to tell you is that they are a facilitator. They are the joy of many lives and a blessing to each of our lives. They accentuate those who they accentuate the lives of those who they're around. And honestly, if you get to meet Mel, it would just be a blessing. But knowing Mel, in essence, is beyond blessing. It transcends the words that I have at the moment. And that is why I've dedicated a poem to Mel at its finest, because I think I'd have you read it, but I'll read it to you and then we can discuss it as you'd like. But beforehand, when you hear the title, The Curse of Toughness, No Longer Bound, what do you think of?
I think of like relief. I think of relief, like a weight being lifted.
Would you say you have many moments in life, not that you have to go into great detail, that you
Mhm.
feel as if you would need a release from, or a relief from, or that you have been relieved of?
Yes, almost all the time, but definitely I've had lots of battles that I've conquered over the past couple of years.
Have these battles permitted you to find your voice and your purpose, more or less your voice? And would you say that in these moments, albeit may not have felt like you had a bigger picture, and you're kind of still going through your canon events, what would you say is something that you have to work on when it comes to toughness and being able to do what you must to relieve yourself of the burden of being tough all the time? Do you still find yourself with that persona, or do you feel like you've worked on changing it a little more?
I've definitely worked on it, and I will say I'm doing better, but I'm starting to work on my vulnerability again because I seem to be having trouble. But yeah, I'm much more expressive. I'm doing things that make me uncomfortable. You've inspired me to start writing again, so that's what I've been doing. I've been writing a lot, but yeah, I've conquered lots of battles physically and mentally. I was a runner, and then and then I wasn't. So lots of things that were like, I guess, my whole identity that I thought made me me. I couldn't do anymore, and I think these were very important events to help shape to where I was. I don't think if I got injured, I'd be coaching today. Um, and that fed into a lot of mental issues that I already had. But I think everything happens for a reason, and I think like you just have to allow yourself grace and you just have to go with the flow and just relax. So that's another thing that I've been working on is just allowing myself grace and just taking everything one step at a time. So I think that's very important as well.
Speaking of grace and identity, which might be the theme of this entire recording, you've spoken about identity many times and who you are and what you are. And one of the very first things that you introduced yourself as was a you coaching track, which is funny because throughout all the time that I've known you, which in comparison to some isn't long, but to me is quite a beautiful time, I would have never
Hmm.
imagined you to have introduced yourself first as a PE coach and have such pride in taking care of not only children, but taking care of their livelihood, taking care of being responsible for them, seeing yourself as a mentor towards them. And it made me curious if while you were running, you found yourself in the same mentorship position. And what's the difference? And if you have, what difference is it from a coaching perspective versus being a runner alongside them?
Oh, definitely. Like I was captain, I was co-captain, and then I was captain the next year, and then I was coaching. So I've always had like a leadership role. Ninth grade, of course, I didn't, but 10th grade, I was already leading the pack. So it's just been nice. Like when you're a peer, it's definitely different. I think coaching, you have much more responsibility.
Is it harder to connect with the kids knowing that you are a coach and considering the age difference between you and the actual kids? Because it's not that deep. I mean, it's not that far. They could be you and you could be them.
Yeah, and it's definitely a difference because even though I'm not that much older than them, I find it hard to connect to them. And they also think I'm really, really old. I don't know why. Maybe they just assume because of the position that I have at such a young age, they would not believe me if I told them what my age was. But yeah, there's things that they say I have no clue. But I mean, I think it's kind of cool to get this new perspective because um I haven't really worked with like it's fun to work with different ages because I work with like young children, like ages like 9 months to about 5 during the day, and then I'm working with 14 to 17 in the afternoon. So it's definitely an adjustment.
Has working with kids given you clarity and giving yourself grace or your younger self some grace?
Oh my goodness, 1,000%. There's like certain things that I guess I just didn't understand. And sometimes when I'm having trouble with my patients, I just like think like, if I was in their shoes. So now I find myself like kind of healing myself within them. Like they'll fall or they'll be frustrated about something and I'll talk to them instead of yelling. I like to understand why they're upset, or why they're not listening. Because sometimes people are just having a bad day. So I just like to get down to their level and really just understand them, all ages.
And I'm not saying anybody from your team is some inquisitive genius as of right now and is someday going to find this and be like, oh, wow, that's Coach Mel. But to those who may eventually see it, I've already asked you what you'd like them to know about you. But if depending on your level of comfort, would you be willing to discuss not only your track trajectory, but kind of your story? And you kind of alluded to how it's led you to coaching, but what stopped you from running? Now I know, but we know who doesn't know. So why? Because from their perspective, you run with them every day. There'd be no reason for you to have stopped. And you're at the age where many would actually consider contending for something or actually pursuing running seriously. And from the outside onlooker, you look fine, as you always do. So, based on your track career, what stopped you?
Um, well, okay, so first I had a stress fracture. No, yeah, I had a stress fracture in my left foot. And that was from overtraining because I was skateboarding. I was running 3 miles, 3.5 miles every single day on concrete. It was like my coping mechanism. It was like the only thing that made me happy. So over COVID, like I was running nonstop. I was doing a little bit too much. And my body said, that's enough. And that was it for me. Um, but yeah, after that, I finally recovered. I had a really rough cross country season because I went from being ranked in the district, ranked in the county, and I don't remember if I was regionally ranked or not, but yeah, I went
Likely
from
was.
being like good to not, and it was a really hard season, because I just wasn't used to not being at the level that I was before. And then once I finally recovered, I was ready for track. I was excited for track. I was getting back into the motions, and then I dislocated my knee. And I kept running. I dislocated my knee. I pulled over. I popped it back in and kept going. And I didn't feel it till the next day because I'm a little bit on the insane side. But I guess after a while, my body just said like, just no more. The doctors told me like, you're gonna need a knee replacement if you keep on running. So I had to actually stop.
Did you choose to stop? Well, okay. Grace being the
I was
theme.
forced. I was
Mhm.
forced.
We're kind of forced to stop. This wasn't by choice. So, why not choose temporary glory over permanence and bodily health? Because as you know, we as athletes don't always have the best relationships with our bodies. We'll go, 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 and then we sit down at 30, 40, 50, and we ask ourselves why we walk with a little bit of a bow leg, why we limp. So, you were forced to stop doesn't necessarily mean that you had to listen. So, why listen? Well, I can
I
see.
listened because I could barely walk. It became to the point where I was in a restrictor in one leg where I could not bend my knee at all. And then I had a brace on the next leg. Like both of my knees were shot. And I have like not a lot of cartilage left and you can't regrow that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it was difficult. Like if I got bullied because if you saw me and I had crutches, I had everything. Like every other week, it was like some new pair of armor that I had to freaking put on my body in order to function. So I like even if I wanted to, I physically couldn't. And I think that's what made it worse because I like to push myself. I don't always say when I'm injured. I'm not always honest with myself and my body, but I couldn't continue.
Has giving yourself, well, that's, well, I know that because it's just fascinating because your track story is, honestly, I always think of this like redemptive trope where you come back and like that plane that disappeared for 8 years and then came back after going through like this time dimensional warp. I don't know the entire story.
Mhm.
I have like this redemptive story written out for you that I hope one day comes to fruition. Where, albeit you can't grow back cartilage, you get like this one big moment where you feel good and you step on that track one more time and you can actually give yourself leniency and kind of heal. And I know you've been healing because being in this position as a coach has allowed you to really
Mhm.
heal others and heal yourself. But like, do you ever miss those days? I know you do, but like, to what extent do you look at your runners and do you ever envy them, or can you fully say that you've made amends and have a healthier relationship with your sport than you used to?
I think I definitely have a healthy relationship. I think people always ask me like, how can you possibly coach when you can't do it anymore? Like, does that not make you upset? During COVID, I stopped coming to practice. I couldn't come to practice because watching everyone do what I loved, like it was difficult for me when I physically couldn't when I was in the boot. But I think after time developed, I realized that like I needed it. And so once I came back and I started coaching, and now that I'm like head coaching and stuff like that, like I think it's been definitely a journey so I can still be a part of it and help others and help them be what I couldn't. I lived through them. I lived through them because I couldn't do it. I didn't even get to my prime yet and I was like doing really well. Like if I had one more year, I would definitely be going to probably states. But I'm glad it happened this way and I wouldn't want it any other way. So I'm actually very blessed for the whole list of events and how it happened.
To juxtapose something that you frequently tell me when I tend to talk to you about me feeling complacent, you tend to reiterate about fundamental foundation and how very rarely we'll be put in a position where we are unable to actually make an impact or make a difference. I remember when I was getting laundry out of the dryer and you sent me a voice message of this a job opportunity that you had gotten, and it was while you were coaching. It was like in the you had just graduated from Nova, which we'll get to that about you and not even almost not even graduating if you're comfortable doing so. And then you get this job application straight out of school after, well, first of all, you didn't really want to go to university, which kudos to you for being brave enough to take that step and having faith in yourself and wanting to work and help others and knowing what you wanted to
Mhm.
do, and albeit not exactly very favorable or looked upon favorably by people such as myself. I'd say that
Mhm.
it's kind of nice because I've never seen you in this state of euphoria while helping people. So, in that, I would ask, looking at when you first got this job opportunity and you may not have believed that you had the tools to do so, how much would you emphasize to people not always having a structured plan but kind of just having faith and trusting in spontaneity, because you can't ever plan for what you do with kids. Like your first track meet with them was horrible, as you had mentioned.
Mhm.
And what do you do to recover from those days? What do you do when you feel like you have zero tools? Because I remember, I can juxtapose those two ideas. When you first got the job interview and or the job offer and you felt out of place, you didn't really know if you were going to take this, and then the first track meet where you're questioning what you can do from this position no longer as a runner. How
Mhm.
how do you continue going knowing you don't always have the tools? What faith does it require and what type of grace does it require you give to your kids? If you understand, because I tend to not formulate questions properly. So I hope you understood that one.
Yeah, I think I understand. Um, Definitely. So I got like three different offers right out of high school, and while it was like humbling and like, oh my goodness, like it felt good that I would have a backup plan if I did not go to a university. which which ended up being my backup plan, and now is my main plan now. But I felt like I felt almost like unworthy, and I know that my kids did very well, and one of my kids I got to states in both cross country and track, but I felt like you're right, I did not have the tools. I wasn't quite sure if I really believed in myself to run a whole entire team on my own. But I've had lots of help from like my old coach. Um, Actually, all the workouts and everything is me, but like just support from my older coaches, and my past coaches has been very, very important to me. It was definitely nerve-wracking at the beginning, but I think everyone believed in me. And even their head coach that he stepped down and wanted to give me his position, he's now teaching at the collegiate level or coaching at the collegiate level as well as my old coach. And they told me like there's no one else that they could see better for this job. And they really believed in me more than I believed in myself. So I think it was definitely like it was very, very humbling to see the community that rallied behind me that had been waiting for me to graduate to take on what they had been doing for years. So I think with the grace thing for that first cross country meet, it's just realizing that because I had been working with the kids at Nova for a while, but these kids, it was like I had a friend, like a fresh like new team. Like no one had ran before. I had two returning runners, and one of them was running like 38-minute 5Ks. So so really and truly, I had like one returning runner. They're like, it's a brand new team. You're starting over. And they're like, but I think that's important because, you're new. You can establish the way that you do, and they won't have to say, oh, coach so-and-so did this, coach so-and-so did that. So they're like, this is your team and you run it how you will. And if you need any help, we're here, but this is all you. So I think I just had to realize that they're starting brand new and I had to start from somewhere and they have to start from somewhere and they're not going to be good immediately. And so after that first meet, I just knew where to build and just building up their character. We also started doing affirmations because a lot of them were like very pessimistic. They didn't really believe in themselves. And I think as soon as you believe in yourself, I always tell them they are so annoyed by it, but I always tell them mind over matter, which is something my father has always told me. So if you believe you can do it, then you can. If you don't believe you can do it, then you simply can't. So we always do affirmations and literally a bunch of coaches and other kids came to me the last meet for the regional qualifiers. And they're like, are you the one that always does the affirmations at line? And they're like, we love it. And like multiple people came up to me at districts last week and they thanked me. So I think it's really cool that even though they're not on my team, they enjoy it and they're asking me if they could join for regionals and everything like that. So I try to make the difference the best that I can wherever I am.
You don't have to say any of their names because, of course, this is personal. But due to your
Mm-hmm.
experience with track, which is kind of abusive if you really look at it, but which athlete doesn't have an abusive relationship with their sport? We give it our all and it gives us nothing.
There
And
you go.
do you see, although you live vicariously through each one of your runners, do you see yourself in any of them? No name specifically. And if so, what have you done to kind of guide them through this time and understanding that you are kind of meeting yourself in a different body, in a different vessel, in a different place, but maybe with the same mentality? What have you done to try and reach that person if you can see yourself through anyone on that team?
There was someone on my team last year that I
Mm-hmm.
tried to mentor this year, but from Nova. And it's really crazy because she's had almost every single injury that I've had. And it's kind of scary. It's the same leg, it's everything, every single time. She had shin splints. I had shin splints for 3 months in ninth grade. Same thing with her. She had a stress fracture from overtraining. She's crazy just like me, and she just does a little bit too much. And I like implored, like I almost like cry talking to her. And I was like letting her know that you really have to listen to your body and be honest with yourself. If you need to take a break, you need to take a break. And that doesn't make you weak. That doesn't mean you're going to be trashed the next time you run. You just need to take it day by day. I don't think I fully got through to her though. I definitely did, but I think she just made a choice, which is probably just better for her. She plays multiple sports, so she's focusing more on soccer, but she still mentors the team, and she's basically kind of like, I guess you'll say that like the team manager, but she's kind of given up on the running. I saw her at one of the meets and she was like walking. But everyone has a different path. And if she knew that she couldn't physically do it anymore and mentally do it anymore, then that's okay. As long as you're honest with yourself. And that's what I told her to do. So as long as you're being true to yourself and true to your body and listening so that you don't have permanent damage at such a young age, then I guess it is what it is. And I'm proud of her for choosing what made her happy.
What do you do every day to help yourself help these kids? Because you discussed the tools and initially not believing that you did, but now that you're here and you see that you can actually do this and do it well, what do you do every day as a coach to work on yourself to allow your kids to be in an environment to flourish?
I think I just come as I am and I just get down to their level so that I'm no better than them. Even if I was 25 years older, 40 years older than them, I'm no better than they are. And um, I wouldn't even say that we're peers, but I just try to understand them. If I see their face and we're doing stretches and I already see they're in a bad mood, I ask them, what's going on? And I let them talk to me. I let them know that I'm here if they just need a listening ear. And I tell them to be honest. Every time we do a workout, I ask them like, "How are you guys feeling? How are you guys feeling? If they're tired, they're tired." But that doesn't mean I'm gonna shorten the workout or anything unless everyone's like seriously like if I see that there's an issue there. But I like them to be honest, and I always tell them like it's not a trick question. I want to know how you're feeling, so I know, is this a workout we need to repeat in the future and see like the comparison because we've done that as well, where they could not do a workout in the beginning of the season and we ran it back later on in the season. They flourished, and I'm saying like I tell them that I believe in them and look how they started and look how they are now. So I like to ask them how they're doing, physically as well as mentally as well, because I think that's very important. Because if you're not mentally there, there's nothing your body can meet you with. If there's no gas in the car, no matter how much you press on that gas, you're not gonna move. So I like to make sure that they're okay physically and mentally, and I just tell them to be honest with me.
I promise you, this is going to be the last track and field related question before we segue
Fair.
into a
That's okay.
potentially more personal slash poetic stance on your life because there's
Hmm.
a lot. And okay, you've helped them through their own journeys. You try and be the light to their darkness to help them pursue these roads and these pathways in whichever way they take it, to the point where you're teaching them that if they don't pursue track, you're giving them tools that are transferable and that will allow them to be who they are no matter what pathway they choose to do in life. And you're
Hmm.
still on your path. You're not established by any means.
Yeah.
You're actually more or less on my side of the spectrum, being disappointments. And in that, in saying that, I just want to ask you, what have these kids made you realize about yourself? I've already asked you about what these kids help you, um, how these kids help you heal or heal your younger self or your teenage self or your runner self. But meeting these kids now in this environment, what are they teaching you? What is one of the best lessons that they teach you every day by you just being there and them having them as a team?
I think you don't realize how much of an impact you make on someone until you see them like at their lowest. Like I've had kids come up to me and like just tell me that they're just not feeling it today. They're not feeling good and everything like that. And I think once you realize that people like actually look up to you, they like forward to you. I remember I told them I wasn't coming to practice, but every time, people just don't listen sometimes and they genuinely asked where I was. There was a practice where because I had a recent loss in my family, I came to practice and obviously I was not very happy. I think it was the day after because I didn't take any time off. Because that's just how I am. I just like to keep things moving. And they're like, "Coach, you look so upset. What's wrong, Coach?" Like, "Oh, you're gonna yell at us already." Guys, I promise you, I'm not a horrible coach. I'm not always yelling at them. But they cheered me up and I think they see how I am and they make sure it's important that I look okay too. They ask me how I'm doing. They get on my nerves, but they're like, you love us, Coach. And I think it's very important to see how much of an impact that you make on these people's lives and then you don't even know. Even like when it comes to my preschoolers during the day, like there was like one class that remembered my name like within one class. Little kids don't remember anything. So the
Yeah.
next time I came and they're all calling my name, it's just really sweet. And there's another class.
Oh, Mel, can you hear yourself at the moment? Oh, I think Mel might have cut out briefly. Give me 1 second to remedy this.
I'm
All
sorry.
right. No need to apologize. I lost you for a second, and that's genuinely on me. I should have had more professional equipment that negated this possibility, but you know how startups go, and I'm also not very established. So look at me interviewing somebody about getting to know them and helping them find their voice when I haven't even found mine. Kind of
There
like
you
two
go.
sides of the same coin, but your answer kind of transitioned perfectly into your life pertaining to personal matters. How weird is it having people look up to you when at some point you couldn't even look to yourself and find yourself as a feasible person to help you?
Yeah, it's definitely weird. It's very humbling and it's nice. But sometimes even like, when things are going well, I still think like, wow, like, am I really equipped for this job? Am I really qualified enough to do what I do? But I mean, the kids have been doing very, very well. And I think that it just like you just see the results and you know that you're doing well. And you know that you're trying. And as long as you're trying and they see your effort and you see their growth, I think that's all that matters.
You know how they did a Billie Eilish throughout the year interview with Vanity Fair because they kind of knew what her trajectory was towards her being.
One day I'm gonna sit there and watch all of them in a row, but yes, I do know what you're speaking of.
I was I was like, we don't speak of 11th grade year for reasons. However, I was so curious to like I can kind of see your development through your poetry and whatnot, and it's kind of how you can see through mine. But with that being said, if you're comfortable with it, I would like to read you the poem that I wrote directly for you. And if you could just narrate your thoughts after you hear it, that'd be fine with me. Are you fine with that?
Go ahead.
All right. So the title of the poem is called The Curse of Toughness No Longer Bound. Strength's facade cloaks wounds too dense. There lies a tale old yet untold, of hearts turned stone, of spirits bold. Beneath armored skin, scars intertwine, battles won and lost in the caverns of the mind. For every fortress razed, a story unfolds, of love never received, a hands not to hold. Toughness, they say, a blessing and a bane, a knight's shining armor forged in life's disdain. Yet behind that shield, where shadows do dwell, is a dance of survival, a life hard to quell. Eyes like tempered steel piercing the void, reflects years unloved, dreams destroyed. Yet within those depths a fire remains, a flicker of hope breaking all chains. For what is toughness but a siren's song? A call to the world to prove them wrong. To rise, to fight, to stand so tall, yet secretly yearning for the fall. To be seen not as armor but as what lies beneath, a soul, a heart, seeking relief. From years of battles, from wounds unseen, from the curse of toughness and all its being. Yet in this duality beauty doth reside, for the toughest of souls have the softest inside. A paradox of life, a dance of light and shade, the blessing and curse of the toughness displayed. So when you see strength, look beyond the veneer, for beneath that toughness is someone dear, someone who's fought with every breath to ascend from the depths to conquer death. And in that ascent, let love be the guide to heal the wounds that toughness did hide. For in love's embrace, true strength is found, and the curse of toughness no longer bound. So before I delve into anything too major, the line for in love's embrace, true strength is found. Has there been any love formed in your life that's allowed you to look within your own strength and find it?
Um, I think the relationship that I've built within myself, I think allowing myself to actually feel emotion and because I don't know why, but I think I just moved like a machine. I didn't really allow myself to go through anything fully and emotionally. And I think once I realized that I'm human too, and I can be upset and I can have an off day. I think once you build that relationship within yourself, um, I think it's limitless. Everything else is limitless for you. As soon as you love yourself, you see the beauty in so much and so many.
What's it like looking at yourself as a stranger and not as a human, not even as a non human, but not even as your own soul?
I don't know. It's odd because I did go through a complete like era where I was like disassociated from myself and I was quote unquote doing things for the plot because like nothing genuinely felt real. It was really odd and just hard to explain because most people go through disassociation. It lasts for a couple minutes or they're just kind of lost. It feels like you're playing like a video game and like you're the main character, but you're playing, you're playing a character, and it's not like genuinely just you.
Mm.
But once you realize, it's like one of those, oh, make sure you like this decision because it'll, affect your ending. Once you realize that it's real life, it's like you have to like genuinely lock in and realize that you have to put yourself first when you're doing anything.
Well, it's funny that, well, it's actually not even funny. I'm learning how to transition between topics because at the moment I'm still relatively new. And I remember talking to you about this poem not even well before it came out, because I don't even think I told you. I told you briefly that I wrote, and you're like, "Oh, you write well," and I was like, "Haha, modesty." And then I just dropped this bomb on you. I'm like, "I'm hell. I released a book, poetry. Let me know when you like it." And I never told you that I wrote this one explicitly for you. And the title, "The Curse of Toughness," no longer bound, juxtaposed with the lines, "For beneath that toughness is someone dear, someone who's fought with every breath to ascend from the depths to conquer death." You've experienced that line throughout your entire life, or just within the formative years of one's childhood, which I don't know how much of a childhood I could consider you having. Between the battles that you were having with yourself, at what point did you realize that you had to enjoy life? How much of your life was spent battling and not enjoying? And to what extent do you find ways of yourself healing that every day?
Well, I think I had a good childhood. I've experienced anxiety since elementary school. It just wasn't diagnosed and I didn't know what it was yet. I was very like critical about every single thing that I did. Like I had to have perfect grades. I had to make everyone proud. I don't know, like no one really put pressure on me, but I put a lot of pressure on myself and I think it definitely affected me, but I was still happy, very bubbly. Middle school came, and I think it was definitely an adjustment because the teachers, I don't know if it's like everywhere, but middle school teachers, like no matter where you are, they're definitely different. And I think I got my first C, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't, I can't continue. But it came from grades and just like literally everything. I just had to make everyone proud. Um, and I think like seventh grade it started to get a little bit like I'm no longer really enjoying school. I was experiencing burnout. And then by eighth grade, um, I think everything crashed. It was a great year socially, but emotionally, I think I there was just a disconnect. And from there, it was just downhill. Um, I don't remember most of 10th grade due to my brain deleting it.
Hmm.
um, for my own health, I guess. But I don't even know where the turning point was. 11th grade was getting like better, but then I got injured and, I was going through physically a lot of health issues. And then they told me that I might have had an autoimmune disorder. It was like a bunch of things. I was on the phone with insurance all the time on my own. I was going to a bunch of appointments all the time. I was falling behind on work because now that I finally was feeling okay again, I was physically not well again after finally recovering from because once I was not doing very well mentally, but I could run and I ran all the time and that's what made me happy. Going to practice like was the best part of my day every day. And then when I couldn't do that anymore, it kind of just wasn't well. Um and I guess towards the end of 11th grade year, although there was things that were difficult, I think I just realized I was just having less and less bad days. And I think when you look back and see how far you've come, you just realize that you're just grateful to be where you are. Um, like I realized like Christmas, like I really enjoyed my Christmas. And I think that was like the beginning was like, wow, like I can enjoy things again. And my birthday, my 17th birthday was very, very important because I didn't think that I'd make it past 16. And I think that might have been my turning point was making it to 17, and realizing like, like I did it. And once you just have to go through it. And people say it all the time. It's a cliche, but things do get better. You just have to be patient. And just like I said earlier, just allowing yourself grace and just being kind to yourself. And I think it goes a long way.
Do you remember what it was like during that phase of you being patient, or at least trying to be patient? Do you remember how um how frustrating that was?
I was about to say frustrating is definitely the word. I think um because I've always been like very, I've always been like the tough one. I didn't even hug people in middle school. I don't know what my issue was, but I just wasn't a very vulnerable person, physically, emotionally, anything. Like I just kind of just existed. Even though I was happy, I didn't do feelings and emotions. People would cry to me, and I could help the best that I could because I always a good listener, but like I didn't know how to deal with emotions, and I don't really know what caused that. Maybe just being too critical for so long, you just kind of like lose the human aspect of yourself. But there's a point where I realized like I actually need help because I think so that was a turning point in my life where I realized that I'm not going to make it if I don't actually reach out. And I think asking for help, I don't know why I was so afraid. Because my mom just told me like, like it was fine, and we looked it up, we did our research, we set an appointment, but there was a time where I was doing therapy, psychology, I had a psychiatrist, I was on medication, I was meditating, I was doing everything that they told me to. I was eating, I was sleeping, I was doing everything and nothing was working. And I think that was like the low point where I've done everything, I've tried everything, and nothing was working. I think that's when I really was like, there's nothing more that I can do because I genuinely was trying. So that was definitely very frustrating. And once I got discharged from therapy, you think that it would, be well and all dandy again. But I think that's the lowest that I'd been. I wasn't ready. And I told her I wasn't ready, but she told me, just believe in yourself and everything like that.
That
I
lady
guess all the
dropped
things
you
that
off
she had to tell
and
me.
dropped you.
Yeah. And she's like, well, good luck with your life. She was really cool though, and she definitely changed my life forever. Um, but I think after trying everything and nothing working, and then the one place where you can go and just be honest and, you know, feel good, it just was done. And it was just a frustrating battle. But I think once I realized that I just had to really like, just stay strong I really think it was just for my mom. It sounds selfish and it sounds horrible, but now like I finally understand. But because once you don't really have a will to do anything, it kind of there's just not much to look forward to. No matter how much people love you, everyone's like, oh, but you're loved, you have this, you have that. Sometimes nothing else matters. So it's really just you versus you. So once I finally just, I guess, got over that hill and pushed and fought and realized, things will get better. I think that's just I went on from there.
Your story, I like to parallel it with Sisyphus and his endless boulder. I always have this interesting, not even interesting theory. I say interesting. There's nothing admirable about it. I always used to think so. Sisyphus is pushing this pointless boulder up a hill, right?
Mhm.
So what's more torturous? Him eventually getting over the hill just to see a bigger hill, or him never even being able to see the hill that he has to push the rock up. So I've always thought to myself, because of my life, and this may change as I go through life,
Mhm.
a greater torture would be to have this man complete his journey just to see a bigger hill, knowing that he will have to do this eternally, than to just, because telling someone that they'll never get to the top of the hill, you've accepted it. So at some point, there's
Mhm.
peace and understanding that you'll never get to the top of it, and you're bound to push this rock up a hill for the rest of your life. Big deal. But
Mhm.
tell them if you give them a hill and tell them that you can get by it, it's really cruel, and then show them a bigger hill, then what really is there left? And each hill you seemingly seem to overcome, there seems to be this bigger hurdle, sorry, not even hurdle, it's a track example, a bigger mountain, a bigger hill
There you go.
to a rock up on. And it's admirable because your story not only could help so many people, but can also help yourself in a really interesting time. Like if at any point you make it to 30, which we both know you will, and you ever
Mhm.
just think about what you were thinking of, who you were at that moment, at that time, at 18. um the main reason I wanted to do this with you is because I like giving people the chance to speak to themselves in weird ways, because in a sense, who we are in our present is our future's past in a sense, and we are merely
Mm-hmm.
to that person if time is as lineal as we think it is, unless it's all just happening at once. But that's an existential thought. And with your life, you just continue to overcome, going from almost not graduating to graduating and now being in a spot where you're happier than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever really look back and have you had time to give yourself flowers, or do you just give them to yourself along the way, or do you not feel like you're at a point where you should give yourself flowers yet because you're still working on things? And even if you are, like, do you give yourself flowers or the chance to do so?
I think I didn't do anything crazy for my 17th birthday. We literally had a picnic, but I think that was one of the most important birthdays for me because I did it. And I think that celebration was very important to me. I think turning 18 was very important to me. So I think these years, like every year, is just almost like me completing a new level. Like I'm just getting higher and higher, and I think I have to give myself flowers every single year, every single milestone, where I realize like there's so much that I would have missed, like just certain like big core memories. Like I remember when I went to nationals. First of all, I didn't think I'd qualify to nationals because another thing besides cross country is debate and acting for me, and I do the acting events and debate, and it was very humbling too because 11th grade I was ranked everywhere. I was winning national tournaments back to back. It was very like it was very humbling, and I think making it to nationals was already a big deal. But when I qualified and I made top 60 and I broke to octafinals, I I'm not a very emotional person, especially not publicly, and I sobbed because it wasn't just about making it. It was about making it there. Like who, if you were to tell myself like a year before that or 2 years before that, that I'd be in Kentucky, battling against like the very best, doing what I absolutely love, which is to act, like I would not believe it. And I bawled right there, like in front of everyone that was there. And I think that was definitely something that I would not do normally, but it meant so much more than a placement. It just getting where I am. And when these big things happen, it's just there's so much that I would have missed. And I think I give myself flowers every time there's an event that just changes the course of things or that I'm just so proud of. And I'm just proud of myself because I wouldn't have made it if I gave up. So I think it's just a win. Every day, waking up every day is just a win.
Hmm. The theme of grace and toughness and how they coincide and how one can find grace in their toughness and give themselves some vulnerability, because oftentimes we might be given flowers, but we're encouraged by life to keep going to the point where
Mm-hmm.
we forget that and then the only flowers we get along the way are at the end of our journey to kind of commemorate the start of something new. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you didn't get your flowers earlier than you should have, because those flowers on the
Yeah.
tombstone would not have would look nice. I'm not gonna lie to you. Nationals is a pretty nice thing to add to a headstone. That's really
There you
insensitive. But
go.
like, um, I know this is on the sillier side, but is there anything that, apart from staying alive for your mom, maybe your brother, maybe your parents as a whole, because you are an older sister, which I imagine
Mm-hmm.
isn't a huge aspect of your identity right now because of
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, but it's pretty big. The Liburd family, I'm just gonna go on a tirade here, is pretty distinct.
Yeah.
Let if we will, we should talk about the fact that you are from a beautiful lineage of just
Mm-hmm.
family, culture, richness, just a beauty of being able to just spend time with your family, not only for the time that I did, but in Dallas, it was just beautiful understanding where you guys come from and the foundation with which you were raised and with which Ricky is being raised in at the moment, or at least attempting
Mm-hmm.
to raise him at the
There
moment.
you go.
And how much how much does the name Liburd mean to you in overcoming the obstacles that you have? Whether it be Smalling, Liburd, your mom, your parents, your brother, how much does that mean to you? What sense of value does that give you in looking at it and overcoming your challenges each day? Because identity is a pretty big thing to you.
Hmm. I think I'm very prideful. I do have a very successful family. My mom is a girl boss. She's teaching at the collegiate level and as well as at the high school level still. She's got like 3 jobs. I have 2 jobs. My dad is running his own business. I'm very proud of him and how far he's come and how he's finally happy in what he's doing. My brother is going to be a D1 athlete. He's going to be successful in whatever he does, and I'm very proud of him.
League. Yep.
I think I have a love-hate relationship with that quote unquote Liburd um identity though. I do love my family and everything, but I think being a Liburd is probably what caused half of the issues that I have because my dad is a Liburd, and he would always tell me like, because when I did attempt at expressing emotion, we're Liburds, we're strong, and that's what I was like preached to from very, very young, like from very young. And I think that um destroyed me. My mom was the same way too, like, don't cry. But the reasons for her telling me not to cry that I know now, and now that we've healed and had these conversations, is, because you watching your child cry, like it hurts you. So it was for selfish reasons. It's not that she didn't want me to express myself. She just wanted me to be okay. But being from a Caribbean household, that's just how it is. And Liburds don't feel pain. Liburds don't get upset. Liburds push through. Da 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 da. And I would tell my dad openly, like, hey, I don't really, this doesn't make me happy, or I just don't feel well. Oh, Liburds this, Liburds that, and that's just how it was. But I think that's how it is in a lot of Caribbean homes. So I definitely love my family and love where I've come from, but it's definitely added to how I am the way that I am today. But I mean, everything happens for a reason, and it made me who I am.
It's kind of funny because the name that I hail so highly is the name that you've lived with entirely your whole life and have this love-hate relationship with. And it's interesting getting to love your name. And Creed is a weird example of this, but if you've seen the Creed
Mhm.
film and the trilogy,
Yes.
it's kind of like wanting to make it as his own, as Johnson, and then him going through one and two and really establishing that identity as Creed and finding his own meaning to it. How do you define
Yeah.
being a Liebird? What is your definition? Because Liebirds are always tough, Liebirds are always strong, but how do you define being a Liebird?
I think that's it. I mean, we can have our moments and everything. I think we're a lot more emotionally mature than we were before. We definitely are, all of us. Um, Maybe not so Ricky, but he'll get there eventually.
Damn, he's gonna hear
Um,
this.
well, it's okay. He's gonna get there. He doesn't really express his emotion either, and it's probably because of the way that we were raised. Um, we have hard time verbalizing our feelings, but I think with therapy and with time, we've all grown. Um, and we're gonna get to where we are, but I think being a Libert is being strong and tough and resilient. If you've known half the things that we've gone through and conquered through our lives, I understand why why my dad is the way he is. And I understand why my mom is the way she is, just based off of their parents and their lifestyle and how they grew up. And I think just being in their shoes and like just looking back and just putting yourself in their shoes and understanding why they are the way they are helps you not internalize certain things. But it's taken me years, to learn that. But once you learn it, it changes. But we're definitely resilient. We're definitely strong, and it does come with the name.
We can all hope to one day be a Liebird. Maybe not raised in the same conditions as you described. It's
There you go.
torture, but like the values and the ethics that it it really. Have you ever gone down the line to see what, other than the famous actress and whatnot, who knows what relation you might have to her, and the fact that you're actually, which I just realized, related to an actor who may be named Miles Morales in a really weird, obscure television
Oh,
series called Spider-Man, but we don't know who that is. Very small, you know what I
uh,
mean? Small business, and we
very, very
support small
small.
businesses. So your dad, the entrepreneur, your mom, who no matter how much we even try to define her grind, can, her work ethic is unparalleled, and I I don't even know if Mel or I could really put into words and do it justice just how much she does. You do you since you're making your own path right now, one of the last questions that I do want to ask you is well, one of before the next one, because I don't have any dumb segments yet. Like one quick question that you associate with, I'll figure that out. Just give me time.
It's
Is
okay. It's okay.
while establishing your path, and understanding your mom and understanding your dad and understanding who you are and who your family is through your grandpa and your grandma and whatnot. Um, how much of their lives do you see yourself living? You know how they kind of say we are the embodiment of our ancestors, and we embody their spirits, their life, their lessons. Is there a lesson primarily from any one of your family members that you can give that you can think that you are either a living embodiment of or that you try to embody every day?
Um,
Damn, I could have
I
pressed you with.
think
I'm so sorry.
no. I have to just really think because there's lots of, family. I think my father's mother, Wilhelmina, who passed in 2016. She definitely had a crazy work ethic as well, but she worked in the school cafeteria and everything, and she would serve children all day and then come home and have to feed six children of her own. And I think just her selflessness and her always giving, and although I don't cook as much as I used to,
Mm.
and I know that's something that triggers my father, because that's just how he grew up and that's what he's used to. I think just giving and serving is something that I would like to take away from her. She's just so selfless, and she's just one of the most sweetest people that I've ever met. And I try to do that as much as I can, is just to give. So definitely, um, Wilhelmina Liburd, my mother's father, um, Wiggy Smalling, the
R.I.P.
coolest man
Yes.
that I have ever been graced to meet.
Mm.
And I can't even say it's unbiased, but like he is the coolest man I've ever met.
Be biased,
His
man. Keep
singing,
it up. That was an
yeah,
amazing man. He is an amazing man. His spirit lives with y'all every day.
yeah. His saying, like he always says it is just passing through, and I think that is what I will live by for the rest of my life. He always, his thing is all he has 1,000 sayings because he repeats the same things over and over again. But his thing is like, just leave it alone. And I think that's very important. It may just seem something small, something silly, but things come with time. And I think just leaving things alone and not feeding into, small things and letting small things bother you is very important. And then just passing through. He takes every day, or he took every day, one day at a time. And I think that's very, very important. Is to just he's the most easygoing. I've seen him probably upset like twice in my whole entire life. Like he's never really yelled. I've never heard him yell. He's just very calm and very laid back. And no man is perfect. He's definitely had like, his moments in his past, but he was an amazing father, an amazing grandfather, an amazing friend. He's just has I he's him, guys. He's
Mm.
him. Um so I think I try to live by him and through him every single day and just be patient with myself. And I think it's just really important to not let things bother you. And that's my biggest takeaway from his whole life is just take every day one day at a time and just be easygoing and relax.
Yeah, we forget to relax a lot of times, and sometimes when we just sit back and let things happen, like it's funny because hearing "sit back" from from a Smalling to a Liebert is funny because your innate ethic, I mean, your innate nature inherently as a Liebert is to work to force things
Yeah.
into fruition and make them happen. So that's kind of like a nice yin and yang. But with that being
Yeah.
said, in the theme of finding your voice, I want your message to be shared. And this won't be the last time you're on, so just know this will be a progressive thing. But for the first
Okay.
time, the honorary first guest who honors me with their presence and their blessings, before I start my thanks and my praise, I just wanted to ask if there's a message you would like to share. If you had a microphone that was broadcasting to the world for 50 seconds, doesn't mean you have to speak for 50 seconds to this podcast,
Okay.
it can be longer. What would you say?
um
One, two. No, I'm
okay.
go on.
I think it's just don't give up. Like as cliche as it sounds, I never really understood, and it just was really annoying where people would just say, just keep going, and I think it bothered me so much. But if you just go and keep going, see the light at the tunnel, you never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Something tomorrow can change your whole entire life and the trajectory of your life. And like just like I always tell people, like you can win the lottery tomorrow, you would never know. And if you give up right before you're there, you'll never know how far you can go. So I think it's just be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just don't give up. If something's not going your way, that's okay. I think just trust in God and have faith, because some things you think is that's the way that you have to go. I'm always a big planner. I don't like things to go opposite of plan, but I think once I gave up my plan and just saw things through, I knew what college I wanted to go through. I knew what I wanted to major in the 7th grade. So I think just allowing yourself grace and just taking every day a day at a time, one problem at a time, I think is very, very important to just keep going and just see it through. And just be kind to yourself and be kind to others, because you never know what someone's going through. That was like 5 things, but there you go.
Oh, thank you. Even I can always enjoy knowing that even in asking a one-dimensional, because like typically you're taught as an interviewer to not ask yes or no questions, and that's mostly all I've asked
Hmm.
you. However, if you hit me with yes or no, then I typically have backups. But I know with you, I never really need that. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for not only being the first guest, but exiting your comfort zone. Although no one will ever fully know and truly be able to embody, not even you will be able to characterize this with words,
Hmm.
what you've been through. I'm reminded of a story my English teacher telling me about this author who, towards the end of his life, wrote a book dedicated towards his dad and what all that he did to him. Although he didn't really have the words to do it, and he was quite a distinguished. I don't know. It's probably not Dostoevsky I'm thinking of, but it's somebody. And I don't know. It's interesting to me because if you were to write a book of your book about your life right now, it could fill numerous chapters. You've lived 1,000 lives in 18 years, and you're bound to live 1,000 more for the amount of time that you live. Through those two eyes, you've seen many lives and many obstacles, and you overcome them. So thank you for still being here. Thank you for not giving up, and thank you for being here on the show. If there's anything you'd like to say, I'd want to give you the final word.
Okay, I think I will have to give my thank you to you. Thank you for having me and for letting me be the very first guest on what is hopefully the beginning of something just great and just beautiful. I think you have inspired me more than anyone else. And I think it's very important to, you know, give you some light and everything like that for all that you've done for me. Although I haven't known you for long, I felt like I've known you forever, and I've told you things that that I don't usually share with others. So I just really wanted to thank you for all that you've done for me and for my family, because I think that you've definitely inspired us all. Um, and yeah, I just really appreciate you. And thank you for allowing me to share my story. It's very nice to reflect um on the past to help us look ahead. But I think your story as well, that I hope you will share one day, is just very inspiring, and how you have been so resilient with everything that you've gone through as well. I'm very proud of you, and thank you for helping me and shaping me into the person that I am right now.
And to the one odd person that listens to this, which is probably my mom, I do want to say thank you for bearing through the technical difficulties of the startup business. I don't have a small loan of $1 million, so at the moment you're gonna have to all bear with me. So thank you, Mel. Oh, choose a song. I always end this podcast with a song. Choose a song you'd like to play, or you'd like me to play to end this.
Oh man. You know how I feel about music. There's like
Hmm.
1,000.
Choice is endless.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no clue. Like in theme, I'm not
Gra-
sure.
the theme is grace.
Theme is. Oh, I do have one. Okay, it's called Rainbow. I do not remember her name, but she is a country singer. If you
All
tell me the name, then I can let you know that that's the one.
right.
But it is called Rainbow.
It's not by Jim Henson. No, that's Kermit.
No,
Close.
it's a woman,
Hmm.
and her last name is like it starts with an M, I think, Miss Greaves or something. I can't
Casey
remember.
Greaves.
Say it again.
Kacemusgraves.
That's probably is. Do you can you see the cover?
When it rains, it pours, but you didn't know
Oh my God,
it
yes.
didn't rain anymore
You
yet.
that song, I think, helped carry me through like the end of my journey. I think that was a very, very important song for allowing myself grace and for seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the one.
Well, your wish is yours.
Thank you.
That's the last thing everyone's going to hear. And signing out on Finding Your Voice is Delson and
Mel, thank you.
thank you. We'll talk soon later.